Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, I guess this is what it's devolved to. This is where we are, or better yet, this is where they are. You know, I think this meme essentially encapsulates the Democratic pitch for the presidency. Cue the meme.
Here's your words, here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay,
Wah! I'm Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump is coming to arrest me. What I just said sounds completely ridiculous, and that's because it is, but it essentially encapsulates what you hear every single day in the media non-stop. Angry Democrat people crying that Donald Trump is a fascist threat to democracy, who's coming to get his revenge as he turns into a dictator and cancels elections, and he's gonna come after poor old me. We're not safe. He's gonna take all your rights and he's gonna put me in prison. Ignore everything economics, ignore everything policy. Just keep living in a constant state of paranoia that Donald Trump's living under your bed and he's gonna grab your ankles as you get up to take a piss in the middle of the night. Ooh, spooky. They really have nothing, folks. It's the Robert De Niro shtick. The Donald Trump's a monster shtick. Let's get into this ridiculous clown world nonsense. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright, so the Democrats really have nothing. Last week it was Robert De Niro in front of the courthouse telling us how democracy depends on Democrats putting their political opponents in prison in the midst of an election cycle. But this week they've decided to add some diversity here a little bit. They've presented us with another actor or actress, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who shows up on a podcast and says this.
What happens to you if Donald Trump wins? What do you do? What's your first move?
I mean, it sounds nuts, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw me in jail.
Really?
He's out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did his whole first campaign around lock her up. Like, this is his motto.
Oh, he didn't say that, you know. He said he didn't say it. Teasing.
Yeah, right?
I see that, yeah.
I take him at his word. I take him at his word. I take him at his word when he says that he's going to round up people. I take him at his word when he threatens journalists. I take him at his word. I feel like what we saw in his first presidency was an amuse-bouche to what his intentions are. He has learned from his mistakes of appointing professionals, and he will not make that mistake next time.
It's pretty much the meme.
here's your words, here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay,
Vote for Joe Biden because Donald Trump literally murdered me. What kind of clown world nonsense is this? But everywhere you look, that's all you see. These people are less politicians these days and more crisis actors. Every day is a crisis. Every day is a fascist overthrow of the government. Every day is a threat on me. It's a threat on the free press. I mean, here's another headline from this morning. Rachel Maddow is concerned that Trump will put her in a camp during second term. Yes, I'm worried. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow expressed concern on Monday over the possibility of being interned in a camp should former President Trump win a second term in the White House this November. Trump and his allies are openly talking about weaponizing the government to seek revenge against critics in the media and politics, with some of his extremist allies even talking about jailing their fellow Americans, wrote Darcy. You're one of his most notable critics on television. Are you worried that you could be a target? What a ridiculous premise. Before we get into Rachel Maddow's 200 IQ mega brain response, just think about the premise. These people live in a fantasy land. They live in a fairy tale. They're not living in the real world. Donald Trump is openly talking about weaponizing government to seek revenge against his critics? No, Donald Trump is very explicit and very specific. And again, we had the first 4 years of his first term where we saw his intent in terms of what he wanted declassified, what he wanted investigated. He's specifically talking about the illegal spying on his campaign, the people who conspire behind the scenes to sway elections, the people currently trying to put him in prison because he had the audacity to run as a Republican. Not to mention, when Trump is actually asked this question, he typically responds like this.
I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success.
It's all so ridiculous. They take everything he says and they contort it and twist it, then act as the victim in some ridiculous theatric dramatic play. And speaking of that play, let's get back to the play. Let's get back to where we left off. Rachel Maddow's response to this ridiculously phony question. I'm worried about the country broadly. If we put someone in power who is openly avowing that he plans to build camps to hold millions of people and to root out what he's describing in subhuman terms as his enemy from within. I'm struggling to read this a little bit. I'm trying not to laugh because it's just so utterly ridiculous. Yeah, Trump is openly avowing that he plans to build camps to hold millions of people. All of his critics and the strong female celebrities who keep criticizing him. We're all going to the gulags. Rachel Maddow continues, again, history is helpful here. He's not joking when he says this stuff. And we've seen what happens when people take power proclaiming that kind of agenda. Says what stuff? Donald Trump's not joking when he says this stuff. When has Donald Trump ever said he's going to be rounding his critics up and putting them in camps meant to root out these people in, quote, subhuman terms? When has Trump ever said anything even remotely close to that? What Democrats are going to point to is Donald Trump's plan, I'm assuming, to deport illegal migrants who have nested themselves within the country illegally. They take his rhetoric, I guess, when he's talking about his mass deportation plans, and they're trying to pretend as if he's talking about his enemies in the press because he wants to be a dictator day one and end elections. Rachel Maddow also later said, if every election is a new opportunity for him to go to prison, do you think he allows us to have new elections? As if Donald Trump has the ability to just turn elections off or revoke that right from the voters. Donald Trump is just going to issue an executive order canceling Democracy Day. I mean, if those are the stakes, if winning the election is his plan to stay out of prison, what happens in that election if and when he does not win it? Left-wing rhetoric has essentially devolved to whatever the bright-thinking ladies at The View were putting out there.
If you dare to go against him even this much, he goes bananas on you.
They don't understand that that's a dictatorship. They don't see the signs of fascism.
And they don't see that they will be the next
it.
victims of this vitriol.
And
the reality is this, Donald Trump is running for president for two reasons: to stay out of jail and to get revenge on his enemies. And when he speaks, we should listen, and frankly, it's scary. He's already said he's going to come after people like General John Kelly, my former boss, Chairman Mark Milley, people who dare to stand against him, Mike Pence.
Journalists.
I think there's reason for all of us to be concerned.
What about us?
But there's a really interesting...
Try it. Go ahead, try it. We have this show every day, okay, Donald?
I guess it's the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pitch for the presidency. I was murdered. Vote for the creepy old man running the country into the ground because the other guy is going to put me in prison if you don't. That is unironically the pitch. We're living in cuckoo land, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs land, especially in 2024. You know, in 2016 when Donald Trump's was relatively unknown, even though he's been in public life for decades at that point, but at least politically, you know, in that circumstance, in that environment, I get how some people fell for it. Ooh, Trump's the evil, scary, boogeyman, dictator Hitler guy. I get it. But now, in 2024, after everything we've seen, after having already lived through Donald Trump's first 4 years, his first term of prosperity, and of course having exposure to the guy himself, I mean, the guy's the living embodiment of the American dream. He's an American icon, a great father, a goofy grandfather.
I'm about to rock this place down. It's lasers!
Mr. President, play all that from your iPad?
It's great, isn't it?
That's awesome.
It's well with Pavarotti. You ever hear this one?
No, sir.
Where Pavarotti walks in to James Brown's house in London.
And that's all on your iPad?
Where do you hear this? Yeah. Pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
You know, Donald Trump is just the Donald. He's the same guy he's always been. You know, it never made sense. It's funny how you could just be beloved public figure celebrity guy for decades upon decades, American icon, real estate tycoon, reality TV show star with the #1 rated show. It's so funny how you could be that guy and then overnight, the moment you announce your candidacy as a Republican, all of a sudden you're fascist dictator guy who's gonna throw Rachel Maddow in a camp. Nobody's buying this crap. These people are desperate. It's the same old same old. Everybody's heard it before, they've cried wolf 1,000 times. This kind of rhetoric simply just doesn't carry weight anymore. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.